Recording and we're live on Facebook.
Great, thank you, Chris. Si alguien necesita interpretación, si se puede dar la mano, por favor. Could I have one of the interpreters put in the chat the instructions for clicking on the globe if interpretation is needed, in case we have someone join, or if there's someone I don't see any hands raised just yet. Okay, well, it is 7:02. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for your time this evening. And we have some great folks with us to learn a whole host of things this evening. Chris, would you be able to share the presentation?
Yes.
You're ahead of me. Could you go to the next slide?
What's that?
Could you go to the next
sure.
slide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Actually, if you could go one more forward and then we can come back to the agenda. So thank you. We will start with just some updates that we've had at GW this month in November so far. It's been a busy month for the GW PTA and supporting the school, and lots of events happening. We had lunch catered by Cafe Pizzaiolo, who very kindly gave us a discount on lunch for teachers and staff during conferences on Monday the 4th. And we had a very successful Election Day bake sale. Brought out all of the lost and found items, and Fran did a phenomenal job selling all of our various assortment of spiritware. So she can talk a little bit more about what happens if you would still like to order something.
All okay?
Yeah.
She was okay?
Yeah.
We also had quite a few volunteers for the Harvest Festival to help Dean Malone with that. Thank you to Jamie Pfister for coordinating. Last week, we celebrated Mr. Sabanash, our school psychologist, and the PTA brought some treats and a gift card for him. Thank you, Sarah, for coordinating. And we also had our Chipotle restaurant night fundraiser last week. So that was for November, and we've already got another one lined up. So thanks to Fran and to Stephanie for coordinating those. It's an easy way to support GW, an easy way to get out and see people. I always enjoy just running into people, getting their dinner and chatting for a few minutes. And we will hear more about reflections. We've had quite a run this year, so that's phenomenal. So these are just some of the things that the PTA has been working on the outward side of things. And we have a few more things coming up before we break for winter break. So Chris, could you click on the minutes so that we can approve the minutes from our October meeting? Does anyone have any questions or want to add anything about what the PTA has done in November, or a question about anything else at this point?
And I'm guessing that those are not in this current deck here, huh?
Can you click on the approval of October
meeting
minutes there?
So our amazing normal person Katie is not here, so I'm pinch hitting. She would do much better and much smoother than me.
You're still doing a phenomenal job, Chris. Thank you.
Felt the conviction in that's what the defense team wants. Obviously, the prosecution pushed that.
Oh,
Hello?
I'm scrolling through. Greta, did you want someone to make a motion to approve them?
Oh,
Motion
I'm
to
sorry. I don't
approve.
see them. Okay, I don't see them on my screen. I'm sorry about that,
Mm.
Chris.
Oh, I apologize.
You might just share.
Could I get a second? Oh, there we are. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to scroll down a little bit, Chris, if you can. And thank you, Fran, for seconding the minutes. They are posted, or they will be posted to the PTA website under meetings, where our presentations, minutes, and treasurer reports will all be located. And they were in this week's crier as well for reference. Okay, Fran, thank you for seconding the minutes. I know that Katie Brownback with PTAC is here and has an engagement a little bit later. I'd like to hand things over to Mrs. Vincent for the principal's update before we move on to Katie. If that's okay with you, Mrs. Vincent.
Yes, that is fine. And I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeanette Benson, the principal of George Washington Middle School. What I'll be sharing with you are some notes from our most recent parent newsletter, which we call the Prexy News. You should have received this through Parent Square. You can follow along with me in the preferred language if you would like on Parent Square. I'm not going to talk through the entire newsletter. I'll talk about some most important things because I know we have a robust agenda for tonight. So tomorrow we are having a parent coffee. You can join us in the library tomorrow from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We'll fellowship and we'll talk about how it's going so far for Q2, discuss some tips that parents can use at home to support their students' learning. Our social workers will talk about attendance and the importance of being present at school. And then our deans will give a short update on some upcoming events that will take us through November and up to our winter break. So we'll be in the library tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then I believe we have a surprise viewing of a new resource that we have here at our school and our library. So that'll be a nice preview for our parents to see what we got going on in the library. We have our updated academic support hours. So if you click on these links when you go to Parent Square, they will take you to each individual teacher's academic support hours for each grade level. So that has been updated most recently. Please take a look. If you need your student to stay after school to work with their teachers, you can see their availability here. You can also see if they're available during lunch and or before school. And then our ongoing academic support for any student is our Aspire Academy, and students do not need to sign up beforehand. They can go and get academic support in reading and math through Aspire Academy all throughout the week. So you can check out more information about that on that flyer. And then, as you know, ACPS has an online virtual tutoring, and it's 24/7. You can check this link for more information regarding that. One other thing I just want to highlight is that our restorative practices parent series is back. We're going to have this first event, part 1, on December 5th from 5 to 7:30. And you can check out some agenda items here, as well as some reasons why you might want to attend. We are a school that uses restorative practices, and we like to engage our families in learning around restorative practices so that you know how you can use these tools at home, but also how it's used here at the school. Some upcoming events, you can check out information about our spelling bee that is coming up. The virtual bee is happening soon. And then we have our big bee. We call it our big bee in January. And then you'll see the winter concert dates here. And these times may be subject to change depending on the directors of the choir, the band, and the orchestra. So we'll provide updates as they are provided to us.
If you see this in the sea, it's better to run immediately.
And then one last thing I want to highlight is our safety walk. So you may have seen a notice through Parent Square that talks about our safety walk that we do each year to our secondary location, which is Jefferson Houston School. So on Friday, we will be taking a walk as an entire school over to Jefferson Houston to practice this drill that we practice each year. And that is one of our reunification sites. And so it is pertinent that we practice this drill with our students so that they know where we're going to in the event that there's ever an emergency that doesn't allow us to return to our building. So you can check out that and more in our most recent parent newsletter, the Prexy News. I'll stop share now and see if there are any questions.
Mrs. Vincent, okay, go ahead, Terry.
My perpetual question, just checking in on staffing, if there's been any updates on the permanent math teacher, and any other staffing holes there may still be at GW.
Yes, so we are on the verge of hiring a permanent math teacher for our 6th grade and algebra class. And so you'll see a Parent Square message from Miss Muse coming out very soon about that. Yes, and I believe that's the most that's the hottest staffing update there is right now. So we are right here. So you will see that come up from Miss Muse on Parent Square. Be on the lookout for that. And was it one more thing besides staffing? Okay.
I had one other question, just in regards to tomorrow's coffee. Is there, is this particularly geared towards new families, or is it for all families? I just wondered in terms of who, I know everybody would benefit from spending time with you, but
mainly newer families. You know, we have our families of our 7th and 8th grade parents who, you know, may feel like they got things under control. They don't need to check in, but everyone's welcome. But certainly we want to just check in with our newer families.
okay, terrific. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
There is a question in the chat. Are all special education teacher positions filled, Ms. Vincent?
Yes, so all of our special education teachers positions are filled. We did get a FTE or we did get, because of our numbers, we did get an additional one that we're working to fill.
And that was in addition after the beginning of the year when we had the influx of students?
Well,
for sixth grade?
it actually came at toward the end of last school year.
Okay,
Yeah, but it's definitely one that was provided to us that we didn't have before. Mhm. Any
and
other?
In the
there's a
chat,
question in the chat. Go
from
ahead,
Willow
Chris.
Darcy that says, is it possible tomorrow morning to hear about variants? Not sure, have the name right. I'm referring to the career planning tool for students.
Yeah, I think it might have changed your, it's just so smart, the chat. It's Naviance. Yeah, it's Naviance. We won't have Mr. Forbes there. He actually has a different meeting. He would be the best person to talk about Naviance. We could probably touch on it, but not go into depth. And if you have any specific questions, please do reach out to Mr. Forbes or any of the counselors, and they can talk to you specifically about Naviance.
And Jen Nichols has a question. Are there special education teachers out on long-term leave? And if so, how are families notified?
So that is like teetering on a personnel issue. However, I will say that all of our FTEs that are filled, everybody is here. And if you have any specific questions about your students, special education teacher, please email me directly and I can be more specific.
Thank you. Okay, terrific. All right, we'll move on then to our first guest of the evening, our first presenter. Katie Brownback is president of the PTA Council for the City of Alexandria. And PTAC does so much to support the local PTA units, and a lot of it, I think, in years past kind of went under the radar, and more so has just really become such an operation and just such an asset for the PTA units. I know that I've reached out to Katie. I know that Chris and I have reached out to the treasurer for PTAC. I know that the reflection chairs have reached out to the reflection chairs for PTAC. It's just great to have that resource. And Katie, we're just so grateful to have you talk to us this evening a little bit about the ACPS budget process and what that means for PTA and what we can do in our role.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm gonna share my screen, right, Chris? You don't have my slides. I'll
Go for it.
Okay. Is that working right? Again, you know, Katie P is my tech lady too. So I don't normally do this part. So
The world comes to a stop.
I know.
Standstill without Katie.
Not my thing. So just hi, I'm Katie. I have 3 children, 2 of which are in ACPS. One is a 6th grader at Hammond, one is a 2nd grader at Polk, and then my just freshly turned 5-year-old will come to kindergarten next year. And so I always think it's a good idea to like ground us in why we are here as a PTA, and that our mission is to empower families and communities to advocate for all children all of the time. And that is really a mission that we take to heart at PTAC. It's really important to us to look at the city as a whole. And so we are the council PTA. So that means we liaise between the unit, which is you guys, and the state in terms of like your financial compliance, and the state requirements that we have to do to keep you as a 503(c)(b). And then we also liaise between central office and the unit to help you connect with resources is how I think of it, and play a role in sort of like education in the city. And so we're all volunteers, just like you. And we always need people. If you're really interested, we'll reach out probably in January or February. I see Terry smiling like, hi. Well, we will always need volunteers. And so we do, like Greta was saying, a lot of different things. We help with some of the compliance issues, like I was saying. We also help with events. We try to hold a spring fling every year. We're hoping to hold it at Jefferson Houston this year, and bring multiple school communities together. It's a really fun morning. Greta has been really involved in planning it in the past. And so it's a great event. We also have a DEI committee. And we also have a special education committee. And then another thing that we do is that I find really important is our equity fund. So if you don't realize it, there's a big disparity across the city between what some units can raise, and it's wonderful, and other PTA budgets. And then, there are units in the city that are trying to do events and teacher appreciation on $2,000 or less. And then you can turn around and there are PTAs in the city that can raise $35,000 in a night. And so we have, for the last several years, asked PTAs that have the means to donate to our equity fund, and we provide equity grants to the PTAs that need it. And so in the past, we have funded teacher appreciation breakfasts at schools that really didn't have the money to cover the number of teachers in their building. And we've helped with other events as well.
Chris.
But the reason you asked me to come was for the budget, okay? And so the budget season is underway. And I thought I would start with the basics because I've realized that, as of I think 2 years ago, I didn't realize this. But so ACPS gets 80% of their funding from the city of Alexandria. And then the other 20% of the funding comes from the state. And so we are a large portion of the city budget. And it's unfortunate because the state considers us a high LCI, a high local composite index. And so they don't give us a whole lot of money. And so there are two pieces to the budget. There is
Katie,
this,
really quick, this
Yep.
is Chris. Your presenter view is blocking the primary slide from what we
I'm
can see.
so sorry.
Thank
I,
you.
I didn't know
That
you
helps.
could see that. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I need KDP.
I know.
Thank you, Chris. So sorry you couldn't see everything until now. So there's two parts of the budget. There's the CIP, which is the capital funds portion of the budget, and that is the process that is going on right now. And that is the money that I think of as going towards like the structures in the school. So school buildings, fields, playgrounds, that's all in the CIP budget. And then the other portion of the budget that we tend to talk about more is the combined funds budget. And so that's the portion of the budget that goes towards paying for teachers, and other things like that. And like people's salaries, I guess would be the best way of putting it. So right now they're working on the FY26 through 35 budget. And one thing that we have been noticing and monitoring is that the revenue is down in general. And so they have been asked to cut parts of the CIP budget again. FY26 is being cut by $7.1 million compared to what was planned for last year. And I noticed that, just so you guys know, one of the non-capacity projects that is being deferred is the George Washington Fields update, which was expected to cost about $4.5 million. Part of the justification for that is that the new fields at Mini Howard should be coming online soon. So there will be more fields in the city, but I just thought that was important for your community to know. They're getting ready, I think it's tonight, probably right now, to do the CIP budget work session number 2. And then the first joint city council school board meeting will happen next week, I believe is the 25th, or the week after. So it's something to think about. One thing that was important also for the middle school community was that there's a placeholder in place for either Jefferson Houston or Patrick Henry to be converted from a K-8 to a middle school or an elementary school. It does not mean a decision has been made. It just means that they are planning ahead in case they need to convert a school. In terms of the other part of the budget, the combined funds, that will start in January. And I wrote down sort of the dates and how that process will go. One thing that PTAC is listening to and hearing from the community is that there are concerns about the Face Center having cuts. And And the FACE Center, if you do not know, is our Family and Community Engagement Center. They help provide translators. They help provide cultural awareness of how to work with different populations. They do a lot of parent training, teaching parents who are fresh to our country how to use the computer, which is wonderful because it can help them not only get on Parent Square and Power School and do the school-related tasks they need to do for their children, but also get a job. And so we have found them to be a wonderful community partner, the FACE Center, and it's just something we are keeping an eye on in terms of the budget. Some things about middle school capacity that relate to the budget that I thought were interesting, and PTAC is keeping an eye on also, is that I don't know if you've had the chance, if you've been bored lately and you've read the CAID analysis. I can post the link to it in a minute. But two things were interesting. One is that the company that did the K-8 analysis stated that the VDOE recommends a middle school enrollment of 600 to 900 students. So I just want to let you think about that, because I know that you probably know that GW is around 1,500 and so is Hammond. So these are some very large schools, and it's something to think about. The other thing that they recommended is that when you plan for utilization, that you use the number of 80 to 85% for middle and high schools as the maximum capacity in your planning, and that you use 90% for elementary school. And we currently, ACPS uses 90 to 110%. So it's, again, something to start thinking about on how we can best plan with CIP and with redistricting coming. And so I pulled some numbers for GW just so everyone was aware. These are out of the CIP booklet, which again, I can stick the link in the chat in a second. But you can see sort of the red line is the programmatic capacity ideal for your building. And then these are the blue is the numbers that you've been at the last couple of years. And I think that, yeah, it's up to date, I think, although maybe Miss Vincent would be able to correct that. I'm not sure. And then the other bar at the bottom of this slide is from the roadmap published by the city, where they go through every city-owned building and they give it like a rating. They say how old it is, they rate the physical conditions, and then for education buildings, they rate whether it meets the current ed specs. And I can put a link in that too. It was last updated in 2022. So there's some buildings that, like Dick MacArthur has since been replaced. But it's part of how the city decides where to put their CIP funds. And it's interesting to look at, I think, so that you're aware of, how GW's building is considered within the city. And then before I finish up, I was just going to give a little plug for Capitol Day. So Capitol Day is a Virginia PTA event where you can go down to Richmond and you get a chance to advocate with our state senators and congresspeople. It's really important because, like I said, 80% or only 20% of our budget comes from the state. And there's a question of whether it should not be more. And so this is a chance for you to go and actually talk to people. Last year, several of us did it as a day trip. It was just me and Julie actually in the end, but we did it as a day trip. We got up really early and we drove down to Richmond and we talked to a bunch of people, and then we drove back. And if you have elementary school age children, we were home in time for elementary school pickup. It can be done. And so if you are at all interested, I can put a link in the chat, or you feel free to reach out to me. If you have questions, we would love to have more people from Northern Virginia going. And so that is it. Are there any questions? Okay, well, thank you for having me.
There is
Hey,
one hand up. Go ahead, Sue.
Hey, hi, Katie. Great presentation. Thank you. Thank you. I had a question about when you're talking about the numbers that Virginia said about the size of the middle school. They said that was the 600 to 900 that came out of the study. Do you know what that's based on? Is that based on school size? Is that based on number of teachers?
I think that's based on social emotional learning in middle school. As we all know, it's a remarkably difficult age group. I say that as a middle school teacher. I love them. They're great. But I think I haven't looked fully deeper. I need to find some more research, but I believe it has something to do with just like once you get so big, it's hard to keep track of everybody.
So it's more, so it's not based on like a student or admin ratio. It's just more
No, it's
based
not based
on,
on our ratio. It's just based on the number of children they recommend keeping together at once.
okay, aged, 12 to 14 or whatever it may be. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Are there other questions for Katie? I have one comment to make. I just another note about PTAC and how they help support local units. PTAC also, I'll take one of your words, Katie, liaises local units with the superintendent, and each year units are invited to sign up to meet one-on-one with the superintendent and talk through some of the concerns or share some of the highlights. Last year, Principal Vinson and Katie Palavicino and I met with Dr. Kay Wyatt and advocated specifically for the third dean for GW and talked to her about some of the things going on at GW, specifically growing our DEI committee at GW and ways that we were partnering the school to kind of build out that that partnership. So we intend to use our meeting with the superintendent again this year for advocacy. And our meeting is scheduled for January. So, that's good timing for looking at budget and kind of talking through with other units what initiatives or resources like the FACE Center, which also oversees family liaisons. Ms. Laura's base at GW is such an amazing resource for our families. So PTAC just really is everywhere to support not just the PTA, but our families across the district. So I'm just so grateful. Katie, thank you for joining us this evening and sharing all of those important numbers and data points too.
Thanks for having me.
I'm grateful. Okay, well, off to Virginia PTA you go. Well, thank you again. We also have Mr. Porter and Ms. Palmer from GW who are going to speak about winter testing and testing in general and advanced academic services. So I'll let the two of you decide who would like to jump in first.
Mr. Porter, do you want to go since you were second on the agenda?
Okay.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that. So good evening. So yeah, my name is William Porter. I am the Data and Testing School Improvement Coach at GW. I am here to answer any questions people have about winter testing, but also maybe to show some samples of score reports if we have time. I'm more than happy to show what you've received. We will have our second round of MAP testing. So we have fall, winter, and spring. The winter testing is happening on December 4th, which is a Wednesday for reading, and December 11th, which is a Wednesday for math. And then there are makeup days on Friday of each of those weeks. Students are tested in both reading and math, and they get an achievement score and a growth score. Are there any specific questions anybody has about MAP before I share some score reports? All right, then let's dive right in. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right, and you should be able to see samples of score reports, yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have two different types of score reports. One is what you would receive via email, and actually you get an email and then you have to log in through this digital delivery service through the district, connected to Power School. So it was brand new this year. The fall scores were released that way. So an email was sent with a link, and you had to open the link by like 7 days or the link expired. And then that's how you access your child's fall MAP scores. Of course, you can also find them in Performance Matters for parents that have used Performance Matters, which is in Power School. You can see your kids' scores there. And then another copy of scores were sent to your actual kids in their advisor classes, and that score report looked different than the one we're looking at right now. So the one we're looking at now is the one that was available via your email, and it's called the Student Progress Report. And we have two kids here. We have student A and we have student B. Student A is an example of a high achiever, but not quite there with the growth. And so you can see we have a math score and we have a reading score. We can just focus on the math for right now. The blue bar is your actual child, the student's RIT score. The RIT score is like their actual score. So the blue score is them, the orange score is the district, and the yellow score is the nation. When the district sends these out to you guys, they put all three. I personally probably only look at the blue and the yellow because I want to care about how my kid is doing compared to the whole country, like all the sixth graders in the nation, all the seventh graders in the nation, because we are a national economy. As your kids go off to college or find jobs all across America, not just staying in Alexandria. So you can see if we look at blue to yellow, blue to yellow, blue to yellow each year, this child, student A, is always above the national average. The final kind of like the blue dotted graph is what the projection would be for the fall of 2025. And so you can see kind of if this is a sixth grader, let's say this is a sixth grader, you would see the fall of last year, the winter of last year, and the spring of last year. So all of fifth grade. You would see the tail end of fourth grade, which is the spring of 2023. And you'd see the first test experience of sixth grade. So kind of you see the end of fourth grade, all of fifth grade, and the beginning of sixth grade in the bar graphs. But on the table on the right here, you can see since your child entered Alexandria and MAP testing began in the fall of 2020, you can see all of the scores. You can see the RIT score. The score in bold is the score your child actually got. The score to the left and the right is simply a window. It would show if your kid were to take the test the very next day, they were equally likely to get, like, looking at the top score, a 232 to a 238 in that window if they're to take it the next day. You then see a growth score and a growth projection and the national percentile. The national percentile also has that window. So you can see with a 235 score, they were actually a sixth grader, as a sixth grader in math, they got a 235, which corresponds to the 90th percentile in the nation. So they are well above all the other sixth graders taking this test in the nation. So definitely a reason to celebrate. This is a high achieving kid. But if we take a closer look at the growth score, the NWEA, which is the people that run MAP, they give every kid a growth target. And we expect all of our learners to be growing every time they take this test. And so they projected that the kids should grow 6 points from the previous fall. So if we go down to the previous fall, it was a 236. Is what the student got. And they wanted to see 6 points more to be considered making growth. But the student didn't get a 236 the following fall. They got a 235, meaning not only did they not go up, they actually fell 1 point behind. And that's why it's a -1 for their actual growth target. And so they left, if we go to the 236, they've left the 96th percentile in the nation and they fell to the 90th percentile. So this student is still one that is scoring quite high, right? We are celebrating this kid. They have high achievement. But as a parent, you need to be mindful that this kind of student A archetype is falling behind in growth. And they fell behind in both math. And if we fall down to reading, scroll down, they fell behind in reading as well. Their projection was 5. So they should have had a 228 and gone up 5 points. but they went behind 228 to 225. They fell 3 points. So they dropped from the 92nd percentile in the nation when they started 5th grade to the 82nd percentile when they started 6th grade. Any questions about that so far? I don't want to move on to the next part. Feel free to interrupt. Just shout out your questions. I don't have the chat open. All right. So we have student A is a student that is high achievement, but needs to kick it up a notch for growth. You will also see kind of subdomains. So for math, you see underneath 4 scores of like subcategories under math. And you have 5 adjectives. They could be low, low average, average, high average, or high. And this student scored high in all 4 of those subdomains. For language arts, we have high average, high, and high average. There's only 3 for this 6th grade. There's 3 for ELA on all 3 grade levels. The math changes by the course they're taking. That's student A. Student B is, again, if we look at blue to yellow, the kids score to the national average, you can see across the board, this student is struggling in terms of achievement. You can see low, 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 and low average as their individual kind of sub-breakdown for the 4 domains of math. But they are making growth. So we look at the far right, the box, they're, we can look at the year before, actually look at all 3. Their projection 1 year was 14, and they actually grew 16. They exceeded their growth target. 1 year, their growth target was 8, and they exceeded it. They got 19. And then last year, their projection was 5, and they met their growth target. So another reason to celebrate this kid, this kid is struggling in terms of the pure achievement, but they're showing tremendous growth as they're going through school. But now how, as a parent and as a school community, do we help the kid maximize achievement as well? But there's definitely reason to celebrate this kid because they are showing growth. And they've done the same thing, except right here, this 1 in 14, they did not show growth that year. But before it was 9, and they went up by 21, and projection was 7, and they went up by 9. So they're showing growth. Again, 2 different types of students. This report here is what was sent via your email to open up the link via digital delivery service, which the district utilized for the first time this fall. What was given to your students in their advisory classes, we actually did a whole lesson on this and setting their growth targets. These growth targets that we see here, your students receive those growth targets in their advisory classes. So your kids, if you're like, honey, what's your growth target of math? They should say, Mom, it's 4, Dad, it's 3. Like they should know, they need to own their growth targets for the winter test that we're having in December. And then after the December test, they'll get their growth target for the spring as well. So the kids are aware of what these numbers are. It's not a secret. The report they got, which they could have brought home to you, ideally, they should have been bringing these home to you. These are the same kids, student A and student B. These are identical kids. The data is just presented in a different way. And so you can see those 5 adjectives of high, high average, average, low average, and low. The kid has student A, we're on student A. They have high achievement, but as we saw before, they have low growth. And you can see that in this graph because it's a flat line. They're way above the national average. The national average is the dotted line. So they are significantly above that dotted line, but the graph is flat, so they're not growing. They are on track to be proficient on the SOL. Same thing for reading. You see that flat graph, and actually it has somewhat of a negative slope there. Low growth, but again, high achievement. Where student B, that kid you can see has average growth in this year because they actually met their growth target. And then here, it did go down from spring to fall, but the way this test is measuring growth is from the fall of 1 year to the fall of the other. So the 178 to the 187 is a positive slope going up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone's faces. I hope that wasn't just not like a data dump and we're like, wow. are there questions about map testing in general or about the kind of those score reports? I'm more than happy to go over any detail.
Jen Nichols had a few questions in the chat. Can you share the versions that students saw? And she also asked it, do kids get growth targets on paper?
So the second 2 pages, those were the reports that the kids got. I'm not sure when that question came in on chat, but so the first two with the blue, gold, and yellow bar graphs, that's what was sent to parents. And then the following two with the nice line that was in like rainbow color, that was given to the students. And then students were given, so teachers were given a kind of a roster of the kids, all the names of the class and all their growth targets. And then the teacher went around as kids were working on creating growth plans for themselves. The teacher went around the room and gave each kid, whether on a sticky note or they whispered in the ear, I'm not sure how they did it as individual teachers, but each kid was given their individual growth target.
So then they did not get that. Okay. They did get a paper copy of.
No, so they were not given their own individual, they were given a paper copy of the score report, and then you got a copy via your email. But the growth targets are given by the advisory teachers. But for math, the growth for the winter test is mostly 3 to 4 points, and for reading is typically 2 to 3 points for the fall to winter. What we were seeing on the report that looked like this, on this report, this was from fall of one year to fall of another. That's why it was like 9 points, 14 points, larger numbers, because it was over 365 days. The kids right now, it's from basically the beginning of September to the beginning of December. So their growth targets are like 4 points and 3 points. Some kids even have 1. If they're already in like the 99th percentile, some kids only have a growth target of like 1 point. But the expectation is all kids should grow. Even if you're in the 99th percentile, you still have a growth target.
Okay. So what if the link has expired? A parent asked that question about accessing that.
Shoot me an email and I can definitely send you an electronic copy of the scores, a PDF.
Okay.
And can, if a parent wants a paper copy of their student's score, we can send that home with them as well. Just email us.
Doing the MAP scores in advisory and handing the students their paper copy, is this going to be the model going forward? Because it feels like every time we take the MAP test, we get the results a different way or at a different timing. Maybe that has to do with elementary versus middle school. But it was concerning for my child to get their test score and then see their friend got a different score. I would have liked to prepare them for that.
So the district actually handles the release of all MAP scores. They've taken that away from all the individual schools, so they control the release of scores. And even after they take the math test, the test is embargoed for several weeks after that, as there's like a, kind of they make sure that the numbers, like, because schools are still testing across the nation, and so they want to make sure that every school is done that testing window for the fall before they do like national percentiles. So like national percentiles don't change for families. So the scores aren't released for probably like a month. The fall, I would say, it's probably like a full month after they took the test. And then we did it in advisory just so the kids could actually see their scores, because we weren't sure, so they were sent electronically to families, but we have no clue if families opened up the email, had a conversation with their kids. So then we had that conversation in-house just to make sure we didn't let any kid fall through the cracks.
So will that be the model going forward?
For our end, yes, but that's always subject to change by the district.
Thank you. There's another question. Joy has her hand raised.
Hi, Mr. Porter, thank you so much. This is really enlightening because I had definitely had questions when my daughter brought home her hard copy MAP scores. But and maybe this is a district question, but we used to be able to, in Power School, be able to actually see the standardized testing results for our kids for various, including the MAP testing. And it looks like that function's been disabled in Power School now. I noticed it last year too. Do you have any insight into that, or is that that's a district question?
No, so I certainly can follow up with that because that is news to me. So you're referencing Performance Matters, so that's a data dashboard that parents had access to, and so you simply could log into PowerSchool,
Yep.
and then you could click and see, old SOL scores. If your kid took the WIDA test, you could see WIDA scores, vowels and PALs, and every test your kid took was in there. And I know during testing windows, they flip the switch off so that parents can't see the scores before they're official. Perhaps they forgot to flip the switch back on, or it
Okay.
could be that Samuel Tucker is on an earlier schedule than us and they've maybe already started MAP testing. And so maybe they flip the whole switch off for the district because they can't just do it just for Tucker families. That I don't know, but I will follow up to make sure that, like, is it a change policy why that no parents can see it, or is it simply because, like, either they forgot to turn the flip it back on after the fall test, or they've turned it already back off because Tucker might be MAP testing already. But I will follow up. And I'll get back to, I guess, Greta with that answer. Okay.
Thank you
great.
so
I
much.
can share that.
Sure.
Could I ask one, just, sorry, I'm just clarification on what students received? Did they just receive, they received their growth number, so the number of points, or did they receive a score?
Yeah, here I can show my screen again. Share my screen again. So they received, it's called the one that you guys got via email is called the Student Progress Report. And MAP, the people at MAP have recognized that this report is somewhat difficult to read for families. And so it's hard to have conversations with your kids about the scores if you as mom and dad are not quite understanding what everything is. So MAP worked with a bunch of, focus groups and moms and dads and equity partners to create what's called the family report, which is this one. So it has like questions you can ask as mom and dad about your kid, about the MAP test. There's a second page to this, like how to talk to the teacher about the MAP scores for your individual math and reading teachers. And that's all in this family report. And so there's like, rather than all these bar graphs, it's just, positive and negative slope. Very easy to see visually all at once, kind of if your kid's going up or down, and then the colors of the rainbow. This would be low, low average, average, high average, and high. And the kids can see where they got in terms of achievement, and they can see where they got in terms of growth. They could see their projection on the SOL. So that's what the kids received. This report is what the schools used to mail home to all families when we as a school mailed them to families, but then the district took over the mailing for all the schools in the district to do this report instead, because there is, to my understanding, there's a regulation in the state that the scores have to include these subdomains. And the family report of the subdomains, which are right here, the high, these 4, and then these 3. And the family report does not include those subdomains. So that's why we cannot send them home to the families, but we give them to the kids because it's easier for the kids to understand visually where they're at. This does not contain the actual growth target on it. That's why the advisory teacher gave the growth target specifically to each individual child. But for our understanding tonight, 3 to 4 is probably the growth target for 80% of the kids. 3 to 4 would be the fall to winter math growth target, and 2 to 3 points would be for 80% of the kids, the English fall to winter growth target.
Okay, thank you. One
Sure.
last question in the chat. Does the testing company recommend sharing the growth target directly with children?
I don't know. I think we certainly just sort of best practice, like to have like a no secrets approach to educating our kids. And so we will make sure that our kids are motivated and understand kind of what they should be working towards. And so, for kids to then, get a score report and it said they had low growth, but they never knew what the metric was in the first place. I'd rather know up front, like I need to grow 3 points, than to not know at all.
Thank you. Anna's hand is raised.
We've been very much encouraged and have been using PowerSchool because it includes that automatic translation for all the families that speak different languages. And so I thought it was really odd from that equity lens that this email came from the school or from the school system to our regular emails, did not come through PowerSchool. And so I'm just concerned for families that have multiple languages at home, they weren't even able to understand the MAP scores.
Yeah, so I
And the
know that the
original
district
email.
had things available in different languages. So I know, but to your point, I think you had to click the link to then access it in different languages. And so if your email's not set up to a different language, I'm not sure how that works. As I only speak English, unfortunately, so I'm not sure if somebody has like if they speak Spanish, is their Gmail all in Spanish and it's automatically translated? That I don't know. But if somebody had the answer, I would like to know.
It should
sh-
automatically
okay.
translate to Spanish if you have Gmail set up in Spanish.
Okay. And I do know that the district did work to have it at least, it was like, I saw like 5 different languages. I just saw the templates of what was available, and I know it's like in 5 different languages that the district had.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Sure.
When did this email come out, in case
I want to
families
say it was
missed it?
like right after Halloween.
Okay.
And you had like 7, they said they sent an email. So again, I don't have a kid in ACPS, so I don't know what parents actually see, but I was told they got an email saying the scores were released. They got a reminder in the middle of the 7-day window, and then a final email came out. So I was told that 3 emails were sent to parents to remind them to click a link. Somebody in chat I see says October 17th is when they got an email.
I'll go back and check. I don't
Okay.
recall ever seeing that.
And it should have come through something called digital document delivery connected to PowerSchool.
Okay. Okay. Thank you,
Sure.
Mr. Porter. Appreciate you taking time to go through all of the questions. Let me just make sure that have anybody else. Okay. No, sorry, that was just about the emails. Okay, super. Thank you again. And Ms. Palmer, thank you for being so patient.
Oh, no problem. My video is not working, so I apologize. You can't see my lovely face this evening. So I have 2 big roles in the advanced academic services at GW. One is titled resource teacher, and the other one is titled screening lead. So this presentation is going to kind of just focus on the referral process and the screening process. And I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go to the ACPS website because I want to make sure that everyone is familiar. It is a newer format within the last couple years, but where to find the Advanced Academic Services website. So if you go to Programs and Services, and then Advanced Academic Services is down here, click on that, and hopefully it will follow along accordingly. And there's a plethora of information. So this is just a general overview of our services, K through 12. This is an overview of the screening process. So currently for middle school, the referral window opened September 1st, and it will close December 13th, and I will provide you with more information on that. I just wanted to share this screen with you, so you and keep scrolling down. there's more resources at the bottom. So if we come back up here and click on the AAS referrals, and if my screen is not going through these steps, please let me know. So with the referral, we do use PowerSchool to submit a digital referral. If families are new to the district, are not in PowerSchool yet, they are directed to contact their screening lead, which I am the screening lead at GW. And these are the steps. And in step 5 is where you would pick your preferred language. Also, if you do need a hard copy of the form, let's say you forgot my information, if you scroll down, there are hard copies in the 5 different languages that ACPS translates them into. Another place I want to show you is the videos. Dr. Temple Milner has provided voiceover videos of our PowerPoint presentations that I wanted you to be aware of. And even though like this one says elementary, secondary just got cut off in the title, but it is for both services. The presentations are in all 5 languages as well, but the voiceover is only in English at this time. And then for screening, the presentation is down here, but I see we only have the presentation in English at this time. And there's a space for frequently asked questions. There's other services. There is the advisory committee, which is very influential in helping us get what we need to do to move the program forward. So is there any questions about the website? Okay. And then what I did do is I took some slides from that voiceover presentation. Where am I? Sorry, it's a different tab. There we go. Just to kind of point out timelines are always good and getting dates down on everyone's calendar. So as I said, right now as the referral window is open in PowerSchool, the referrals need to be submitted by December 13th, which last time I checked was a Friday. So it does need to be in by close of business that day. You can email me by close of business that day if you can't get into PowerSchool, but please contact me ahead of time so we don't have like a last minute anxiety or stressful situation. No referrals will be accepted after that date. So next is January 10th. Parents who submitted a referral will get an email through PowerSchool saying that Form 2, the permission to screen form, is now available. So right now, Form 2 is not available to anybody. That will become active on January 12th, and families have until January 24th to complete Form 2 so that I may continue with the screening process. One thing that I do want to mention, and it is in the audio version of this on the website, you do not need to resubmit a referral for an area your child is already eligible for services in. They will remain eligible for this service until their senior year, well, until their career in ACPS, they graduate or transfer to a different school district. So if your student was found eligible for SAA services in language arts in 4th grade, then that service will stay with them throughout their career in ACPS. And I see there's some questions in the chat, but I'm going to get through the presentation and then I'll come back to those questions because I do kind of repeat myself. There's the timeline slide and then we'll get into kind of nitty-gritty stuff. The next timeline is, so after we have that Form 2 completed, from January to March, the screening lead's job is to collect data, and I'll get into that in another slide. And parents will be notified of the eligibility forms by March 21st. If your student is found eligible, there is a Form 3 permission to place form, and that will be in the March 21st notification. And I'll tell you how you're going to get, well, it says US mail. Please make sure your mailing addresses are up to date in PowerSchool because that is the address that is used. If you would like to appeal the eligibility form, that is due by May 2nd, and then final appeals and decisions will be mailed home by July 15th. As I said, that I mentioned this when we looked at it on the website. These are the steps for submitting a form in PowerSchool. Again, if you need help with PowerSchool, contact me. And as you can see on the screen, I do not have an E in my name. There is a counselor at the school whose first name is also Stacy, and she has an E in her name, so sometimes that gets confusing. Form 2, this will come out from the AA office. It will be through PowerSchool, and it will be sent by January 10th. So if you do fill out a referral, please look for that on January 10th. And that needs to be submitted, I think it's the week after those are due. And the deadline will be on there. So data collection, these are the different categories of data that we collect. The information is placed in a matrix form that will be mailed home to all families who go through this process when the eligibility form is done. For ability assessments, we look at nationally normed assessments such as the COGAT, the Neglieri, or a WISC. If a student already has an ability test on file, they will not be given another ability test because we will be using the ones on file. We do not want to overtest students. If a student does not have an ability test for grades 3 through 8, we use the COGAT assessment. For standardized achievement scores, I'm glad that Mr. Porter went first because we do use MAP data. And with the later referral window, we're able to see the fall MAP data and compare that to the winter MAP scores. So we'll be looking at both of those. And then we also use SOL scores as well. And then we have an observational scale, progress reports, work samples, observations if needed, and optional parent information if needed. This is what the matrix form looks like. My job is to compile all of the information, collect it, put it into this matrix form, and then, so all the categories that were on this slide are in this matrix form. And, oh, this is the eligibility decisions. A student must have at least 3 advanced criteria across 3 different areas to be eligible for services. And one of those needs to be either ability or standard achievement scores. And we are looking at, for the advanced ability score to be in the 96th percentile or higher for ability and 95th percentile or higher for achievement. Now, I do not do this work alone. This data that I collect by student is given to a screening committee. We sit down, we meet together, and sometimes we take like the whole day to get through these files, but I do not do this work alone. You can see the people with asterisks, those are core members of the team. If a student who has a referral is an English language student, then an English language teacher will be on the screening committee. If the student who's been referred has an IEP, then a specialized instruction teacher will be part of that committee. We want to make sure that we're looking through multiple perspectives when looking at student data. For eligibility notification, it will come through the United States Postal Service. Again, make sure that your email or your mailing address is the correct one in PowerSchool. If your student is eligible, the form that will be in that packet needs to be signed and returned back to the screening lead. So at GW, that is me. And you can either like scan it to me and send it in an email or have your child bring it back to the school. And if your child is not found eligible, you have the right to appeal the decision within 10 ACPS instructional days. Again, all of this information and all of these slides I took from the website. I just wanted to give you kind of a condensed focus for this presentation. And let me stop my share and look at the chat.
There were a
Or if
few,
anybody just wants to send some stuff out.
there were a few from the map testing discussion.
Oh,
and
okay.
There is a question here. Virginia DOE recommends a student interview as a data point, especially for equitable screenings of gifted students with disabilities impacting writing. I don't see interview on your data sheet list. Sorry.
I will let Dr. Temple Milner know of this and get back to this committee with a response.
Great, thank you.
And we'll make sure to send out information reminders with the dates. So when we come back from Thanksgiving break, I'll send another reminder in Parent Square about that December 13th deadline.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Does anyone have any other questions for Ms. Palmer?
I mean, it's a slightly different question, but what is the percentage of kids at GW that receive the advanced academic studies categorizing?
I do not have that information with me because I just focused the presentation on screening, and any data that we share with the public needs to go through accountability. So that's not the response you wanted. But I can find that
Curiosity, it's
information.
all right.
And Ms. Palmer, I believe I can pull that presentation from the website and put that in our presentation slides that will go on the website. So we
Correct.
can have that there too.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, sometimes the slides have the K3 or 4 and 5 information, so that's why I just took some stuff out so it was specific to middle school.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening and for sticking around.
No problem. Thank you
Appreciate your
guys
time.
so much. I've been at GW 24 years and I'm very biased about the PTA, but I always think ours is the best because it is.
Thank you. Our school board member, Mr. Beatty, is not able to be with us this evening. So I just want to circle back to PTAC and point out that Terry Generelli is our PTAC representative and has served as our PTAC representative at least last year, if not the year before, I think also. But she also is able to get regular updates from the school board at those meetings too, and shares that with the PTA. So again, Terry, I just want to thank you for your help keeping us up to date on all of the happenings. And we already talked about the K-8, pre-K-8 stuff, but there are two meetings tomorrow night and Thursday night that Dr. Finney is putting together on Zoom, I believe. They're at 7 o'clock and there's all kinds of information in the town crier as well as Mrs. Benson's letter too. So we'll just go ahead and move through our committee reports.
I think I may be next.
I believe you are. Thank
Yeah.
you, Chris.
Okay, excellent. So for the treasurer's report, I'm not sure if there's a way to make this a little bit bigger. So this is reporting for October. We started the month with $20,500 in the account. We wrote $1,235 in checks. We received $5,100 in income. We ended the account with $24,483. And we had some, paid membership dues to the state and local PTAs. Katie Palvacino was renewing our website hosting. Jamie Pfister had purchased some tents and coolers for the PTA to be using. Dean Malone had uh, paid for food for the Hispanic Heritage Night, and Catherine Mitchell had purchased the food for the PTA parents social. And um, just looking at, did this jump to? Okay. As far as this shows the income for the month of October, we had a $1,000 business partner sponsorship, as well as we had some membership dues come in, some parents' donations, as well as then the big thing was people were paying for their spirit wear, which they received. Of course, there's an expense associated with that as well. We had some pass-through income. We do. There's a number of the organizations in the school, the Choral Boosters, the French Exchange, the Robotics Club, who use our swipe reader to be able to take electronic payments at their bake sales and that sort of thing, and for donations. And we then pass that income through to them. We the tents and the coolers were charged to the positive, the PBIS. We had the parent social, family engagement with the Hispanic Heritage Night, some operating expenses. So that's the statement of activities there. Just overall, looking at where we are in the budget, we've brought in $10,300 so far towards our $42,000 total income budget. And we still do have our fall honor roll of donors and then our spring to action, which are our major fundraisers. So I think we're doing well on that. And then as far as expenses, so far we've spent $4,600 of a planned 42,000. So, I think that we're in a good position as far as that goes. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Next up.
And we also went ahead and posted those actuals on the website too. So if you go under resources on the website, you'll be able to see all of the comparison for what we budgeted and what we spent. Kelly, turn things over to you.
Great, thanks everybody. I'm going to be quick. Greta talked a little bit about the events that we've done in the last month. Had a great parent and caregiver social. Lunch for teachers on Parent Teacher Conference Day was a huge hit, and the teachers really enjoyed that. And then coming up the week before school gets out, we're going to do breakfast treats for teachers one morning. I need to check with Miss Benson on the exact date that we'll do that. And then we'll put a sign up out. So if anybody is interested in coming to help with that, or bringing some treats, we would love to have your help. It should be a lot of fun. Great chance to see the teachers. Wish everybody a happy winter break. And so that should be fun. So stay tuned for a sign up. We'll have that out really soon. I think that's all I have.
Yeah.
Unless anybody else has ideas for fun ways to get involved or nice things that we could do for teachers or staff or students or anybody else, let me know. So that's it.
Thank you, Kelly.
Hello, everybody. Fundraising time. So December 3rd, we're going to have a fundraiser for And Pizza. That's the place where you go, you pick your toppings out, they move it through the little machine, and they put stuff on top. Really good pizza if you haven't had it. And so we're going to have a fundraiser on December 3rd. Hopefully everyone can go and order their pizza on that day. We have a couple of business sponsors I'd like to give a shout out to. Chadwick's donated the presidential Washington level, which is the highest level. Please go by Chadwick's. They are a great restaurant. Good for a burger downtown, Old Town. They also are on a couple DoorDash items. I've ordered from them a couple times. They have good food. Chris up in Properties also donated General Washington level. If you have anything to do with real estate, contact Chris. And Alexandria just gave us a check from at the Colonel Washington level. So if you need to buy a car, go see Alexandria. Pam has been working through these. It, through these. So thank her if you see her out and about. She's been really working these business sponsors. Not to be outdone by the honor roll of donors. It's going to be coming up really, really soon. If you are new to the GW family, I'll tell you about how that works. There will be a link on, I think it's going to be on GiveBacks, and you will go in and you can donate anywhere from $5 to however much you want. Click on the link, donate. We're going to be giving a prize out to the grade level with the most donors, not the most money. So if you want to donate $5 a number of times, you can donate $5 a number of times. And each of those are going to be counted as one donation. That's going to be coming up really soon. That is one of our largest fundraisers of the year. Instead of us selling things and popcorn and chocolates and all of this other stuff, you can just donate. And that's a way that we do it. So that will be coming out very, very soon. Spiritware. I have a bunch of spiritware people haven't picked up yet. I'll be sending out another email to you to pick it up off my porch next week. But if you're looking for a good Christmas present, the pajama pants were a really hot commodity. $25. I even updated givebacks with the sizes I have available. Please get them out of my basement and buy them for Christmas. Please. They're really cute. The kids are wearing pajamas all the time to school. And with the testing coming up, they need to be comfortable, folks. Come on. We have some sweatshirts. I have not updated their sizes yet. We have some t-shirts available for $10. Great stocking stuffers or Christmas gifts or Hanukkah gifts or gifts in general, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever you want to do. Gifts are available. That's what I have. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you for all of your work raising all of the monies for us so that we can do some of the great things that GWPTA does to support our teachers and staff and students and administrators. It is a lot of effort to get all these things done. So I'm very grateful. Okay, moving on. I lost my slide deck on my phone, Chris. I'm sorry. Can you move forward in the deck for me? Thank you. Okay, awesome. Anna.
Hi, guys. I just highlighted a few things that we highlighted for the month of November, and just wanted to highlight a few other things that are happening with the redistricting they need on selecting advisory committee members. So you can click on that link to learn more about it and apply. So that will be open for about 3 weeks. I think it just came out last Friday in the ACPS Express. The Ann Lipnick Special Education Parent Resource Center is having a webinar on Friday midday to do an overview of services available to support the mental health and emotional well-being of our students with disabilities. And if you have any particular advocacy ideas or questions, I welcome your email. And on the next slide, I just wanted to highlight 2 things that are happening out in our community. Number one, because tomorrow evening is the second meeting, and this is related to the recreation, parks, and cultural activities. They are looking for community engagement about where our city tax dollars should be allocated for our city rec centers. So I know many of us participate in some of their activities as well as the after-school programs that are so important. So I wanted to highlight that for our community. As well as for the 8th and 9th grade families or families like mine that like to get a jump start on information. Save the date for ACPS Pathways Expo, which will be December 11th at the high school Main Street campus. So that's what I have.
Greta, if you're talking, you're on mute, my friend.
Thanks so much, Terry. So there are lots of ways to reach GWPTA. I'll report on Katie's behalf. And you can always reach me if you have a question. I can send your message wherever it needs to go if it's not to me directly, and I hope you already get the town crier and learn on a regular basis all of the things. We are very grateful to have Shivani with us, one of our reflections chairs, and I would love for you to share a little bit, if you don't mind jumping in. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, about our reflections program this year. You guys have really hit it out of the park. I'm just so thrilled.
Hey, Greta, thank you. Sorry, I was not expecting to talk, but I'm happy to give an update. I think there was a slide on there. If we could have that up.
Yeah, that would, thank you, Chris.
That will help me.
Yes.
I'll just give you a quick introduction. I'm Shivani Chandra. I co-chaired Reflections this year with Marissa Sparacino. We both have a son each in 6th grade. And they're loving it. So we co-chaired Reflections, and we had a great response. We got 110 entries in, 99 in visual arts, and we wanted to give a big thank you to Miss Rollins, the art teacher, who did work with kids in class and got in like a really big amount of applications in. We got 2 in film, 3 in literature, and 6 in photography. And they were all really, really high quality work. So it was really nice to see the work coming in. We also recruited 6 judges who were very, very generous with their time, because especially with visual arts, we and every category had 2 judges who blind judged the submissions, so we could get an average score out of that. And it did take some time for them, but they did do that for us, and it was very nice. The PTA, we did send them $5 gift card, just a little thank you, like Starbucks card, as appreciation for their work. So all entries have been judged, and the winning entries get submitted to the PTA Council, which is the City Council, for the Alexandria level of the competition. And I think that results will come out sometime in January. So we'll hear more from there. And the winners, I think the winners were emailed this week, and in the town crier, it came out this week as well. I think Katie was on top of that, so we sent it to her to be announced this week. We also have the trophies and certificates have come in. Not certificates, we're doing ribbons. So trophies and ribbons have come in, and we are bringing them, Marissa and I will bring them to school tomorrow so that they can be distributed amongst all the winning students, as well as all the participants get a ribbon each. So that's really nice, as just to make them feel really good about putting in the time and effort for every submission that they made. Chris, if you could move the slide over one more to the next one. Thank you. So that's just a quick look at our amazing winners for the year. And if you want, you could go to the QR code there, and it links to our PTA page, to the winners gallery, where we have all their works up there, so you can take a look at them. And it's just fantastic to see the quality of work come in and how creative all our students are. So it was really, really nice to do this. And I'm hoping that next year we get, just as good, even better involvement from all the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. Again, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. That was fabulous, and really it is just fun to look at all of the different ways that our students are creative with the reflections theme each year. It's great. Is there anything that we missed or that you would like to add? Anybody about anything?
I'll take your Halloween candy. There's an announcement on where to drop it off in the town crier. But any extra Halloween candy, and then I'll deliver it to the teachers at the beginning of December.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for coordinating that once again. Okay.
I want to highlight one other event that's happening. The dual language team, they're having a bilingual professionals fair, and they are seeking out or asking for support with curating a group of bilingual professionals. This event takes place on January 31st from 8:30 to 10:30 in our cafeteria, and the professionals come and the students, they do a rotation, learning about the different professions and asking the professionals questions. So I would love to share with you their email that they are asking us to reach out to bilingual professionals so that we can have that professional say here.
Great. Thank you. And a reminder too, coffee with Mrs. Vinson and support staff tomorrow, 9 to 10, correct, in the library?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. On that note, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting, 8:32 p.m. I don't even know
I
that.
second it.
Okay, great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.